10 years?
It's been more recent than 10 years. I'm trying to. I think it was in like 5. I know. Well, my daughters they went to a friend's birthday party there, so I was able to scope it out. And prior to that, I think it was for like a kid's birthday party, and it's like I'm playing games like one that was sweet. It was like a firefighting game where you had like the big hose was
you were fighting fires.
You were fighting fires. Yeah, the screen was at the fires. You had to get them out and save people and stuff. I was like, this is sweet.
That is awesome.
I think all games were only a quarter at that point.
They should have more games like that.
Mm-hmm.
The last time I was there, they still had all the older stuff where like you sat in the thing and it spun you around in that big circle.
Yeah.
And like I think they even still had like there was a Star Wars game and it was almost like the Pod Racer game.
Yeah.
But it was like updated for the new ones.
Oh yeah.
Like the newer-ish ones, not exactly new.
Oh, speaking of that Thailand place, I think we had it in the mall here. You remember I think it was called Top Skater with the skateboard that you stood on? And you had the bars there, yeah. And you had
sucked at it. That was terrible.
No, because you couldn't never get going. Like
no, and it's almost like I wasn't heavy enough to really move the thing around.
Didn't register.
You had to be like an adult or something. I haven't fucked with any of those since I was an adult. So.
No, that was a good time.
But we're rolling. We can get started.
We're rolling?
Yeah, we're a minute and 27.
This is it?
Yeah, I mean...
are you ready?
I mean, no, but...
It's been a while.
I just did it.
It's been a minute. Well, good enough. We're rolling.
Yeah.
The cameras are... Welcome back.
Yeah.
welcome me back. This is good. This is a good time.
We're going to be very... out of practice and rusty here, we should say right off.
Yeah.
I can't guarantee the audio and video is going to sound great or look great at all times. But,
so thank you in advance for sticking with us. If you're listening, it's obviously been a while, and that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about COVID because that's what everybody wants to talk about still in July 2021. We're not going to talk about COVID and how we feel about it and the vaccinate. We're not talking about any of that nonsense. That's not what we do here. We are going to talk about how it affected wrestling, how it affected our lives, and essentially why we haven't done a pod for a year and a half. And that's, it's all wrapped around COVID and what happened to the wrestling business, and there's plenty to dive into with that.
Yeah, absolutely. This technically would be Ohio Wrestlecast number 23, because I looked it up a second ago. It was actually just up here. Last thing we talked about was the Royal Rumble 2020 predictions.
Yeah.
That was on January 20th of 2020, so it's been over a year, well over
about a year and a half, and it's fitting, because at least in my mind, Royal Rumble 2020 is kind of like when wrestling died. Like, that's the last memory that's stuck with me. Until now where there's crowds again and everything like that. I mean, I very rarely watched any Raw or SmackDown. It was almost impossible with no crowd. And then they did the Thunderdome, and I understand the mentality of that. Watched Mania in bits and pieces. Like WrestleMania, you sit down and you watch WrestleMania. You have a party for WrestleMania. It's what you do. And for last year's WrestleMania, it was like, I'll catch it when I catch it. I'll sit down and watch an hour here, and then I'll watch an hour later. But it wasn't must see TV. It didn't feel necessary. And of course, at that point in time, especially at that point in time when the pandemic was just beginning, there was way more stuff on everybody's mind, I'm sure, than watching the wrestling show.
Yeah.
But it wasn't exciting for me. I don't know how you feel.
Well, when it comes to wrestling, I mean, that year was a really weird year. Not so much for me because I didn't really go out and do much anyway.
Sure.
I spent a lot of time at home. Quarantine didn't really affect me all that much. It gave me an excuse to not do shit, really. But
so all the times when somebody invites you out and you'd have to think of an excuse, be like, you didn't have to worry about it.
Most of the time, I just have anxiety, especially social anxiety, and so I want to do the things. I just don't And I'll say, I want to do it, but then, as the moments get closer, I get more and more anxiety about it.
I think most of us are that way to some degree.
Situations like that were, non-existent for a long time.
Sure.
It was a lot easier to avoid situations.
Sure.
But I'm getting off the subject here, but because of that, I would get excited for, things like that.
Okay.
Because there really wasn't much going on. It would give people excuses to come over and hang out and me see people if they wanted to, because I did have, a few people that hang out with. And
wrestling was one of the very few things that didn't stop. You talk, you had UFC stopped for a while before they started having empty, arena fights, and
Yeah, the Fight Island and stuff.
all of the pro sports stopped. Basketball stopped on the dime. Baseball didn't get started until later in the summer. It was everything. The world kind of stopped, and pro wrestling didn't. Vince ain't stopping.
Didn't miss a beat.
Vince ain't stopping.
Even AEW kept going.
Yeah, which it was probably wise for them being so young as a company. Like, they might not have been able to rebound. Let's take a couple months off. Let's see how this pans out. That being said, their show, I'm not a fan anyways. I'm not going all Jim Cornette. I'm not a big AEW fan.
Yeah.
They were the first, though, to actually get some of the workers and some of the undercard guys or the guys not on the show with masks to be front row and loud.
Yeah,
and I kind of like that.
Yeah.
The WWE will never, because to Vince, it's not even wrestling. It's a program. It's an entertainment show. So he would never go that route of, hey, like, we have 20 people. Let's have 20 people and let's have them be loud and like let's kind of make it gritty. Like I kind of like that.
No,
like,
for sure.
Because in pro wrestling, it's really all about the crowd and all these, especially around the WWE roster. I mean, it's just beat into them to cater to the crowd, cater to the audience, the hard cam, and everything like that. So it could have been a fun little break to say, hey, we got 25 people and it's a little more independent. It's a little grittier, but the WWE would never go that route. AEW did, and I thought it was actually kind of fun.
I mean,
when
WWE
they first started that.
did kind of eventually. They put up those glass things and they had like NXT people.
Yeah.
And then like Performance Center people that
Right.
you don't even know about.
Right.
Like a buddy I know that I hang out with all the time, I used to work with, and he can't remember her name, but she debuted not too long ago. She's in that stable in NXT.
The Hit Squad?
Yeah, she's the girl.
Okay.
She went to Perry.
Yeah, we talked about
he
that.
Knew her, and he texts her all the time. He's like, "Hey, saw your debut, blah blah blah." And I'll be sitting here watching and shit, and like telling him what to say because he didn't watch it. I did,
Yeah.
And she was even out there and shit. So
of course, us guys on the wrestling podcast, I don't have her name.
Yeah, I can't think of her right now. And she's like,
"Congratulations if you're your buddy, if you're listening." But yeah, but I knew they had the Hit Squad stable. So was she down in the Performance Center all last year? And so she was on. So they had her as one of the extras.
Yeah, she was standing around, and I remember him texting her and be like, "Hey, I think the cameraman has a crush on you," because they kept showing her a lot. And well,
she was probably instructed to be animated, and as a worker, as a performer, if she was doing it better than some of the others, maybe the camera did. They wanted to pan to her because it's like she's showing the excitement. Well, no, that never hurts either. Get a camera on them, keep a camera on Alexa Bliss at all times, and it'd be like, this is a wrestling show. It's not great, but I want to keep watching it. So
we'll get to Alexa Bliss, I'm sure. But I guess my point there is they did eventually start doing that. And they even started doing it in on the main roster a little bit.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, and then they were still piping in the crowd noise with the wrestlers being out there before they got into the Thunderdome,
which I always thought was so weird.
I mean,
but it was weird it being silent too. So I guess it's which weird do you prefer more?
Yeah, I guess for a television program and you're focusing on the ring and because when I watch, with the crowd, I'm focusing on the ring. I'm not looking at the crowd, but hearing the interaction and feeling that energy. It's a real thing. And of course, that as a performer. Yeah. I do the same thing as a performer. Like when somebody say like, "Man, I saw your match. You didn't stop and say hi." I'm like, "Dude, I had no idea you were there." Yeah. Like, because I just it's blurs in the crowd. You know what I mean? So.
It takes you out of it to pay attention to
but that energy is real, and you would have to talk to somebody within the WWE and ask them if the crowd being piped in helped, if the Thunderdome helped. I mean, it was honestly, I think that's about as good of an idea as they could have given the scenario.
I would imagine like for the wrestlers themselves, all the piped in audio and stuff like that would help for like cues and when to do things, when to move on.
Yeah. Like
it probably helped with the production crew too. Like when you hear this, that's when you start this moment.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Because being on a television program, when the baby face is coming up and come on, you can say, "Hey, we're doing that to the hard cam and we're doing that to you at home," but it's just really weird if you're not talking to anybody. Yeah. And I guess, so even with the faces in the Thunderdome, they're watching it live, you're seeing it live, so you can, get those faces involved here. I mean, obviously unprecedented. All of it was.
Yeah. How'd you feel about the Thunder? What do you think of the Thunderdome itself?
I mean, I really do. I think it was about as good of an idea as they could do with the scenario. Of course, it's not the same, and I mean, you see people bitching about it. And it's like, well, what else can you do? Like, Vince isn't going to slow down and there's too much money involved with the shareholders and everything like that. Personally, it'd be one of those things where it's like, man, if WWE went away for 6 months, oh my God, we'd be itching. Like we would be itching and itching and itching for it to come back.
Look at the crowds for them coming back. Like for Money in the Bank.
Yeah.
And I think they even did the SmackDown right before in the same stadium.
Yeah.
And that was
or
the first.
It was Dallas and then Fort Worth, but they were the same area.
There was a stadium full of people.
Yeah.
And that was the first time you didn't see the upper stands and shit blacked out.
Right.
And lights off.
Right.
The place was fucking packed. And they were psyched.
Yeah.
They were all ready to go.
And I think us as people in general, like, maybe not you, but most people that were cooped up, however you want to describe it, for a whole year, not able to go to any live events, no concerts, no sports games, no nothing. I miss concerts so much, Mark. I personally,
a lot of people are starting to release new albums, and shit, so like it's about to be concert.
That's the one thing they probably could do is be in a studio. Bands could be in a studio, but
it probably helped for like material too, because they had a lot of downtime to really write some good shit.
Really write, really think. Shit, you could be writing about what was going on in their lives during. I mean, there's plenty to write about. Yeah. But yeah, you can tell people are excited to just be out, be part of a live crowd, be part of that energy, man. Like,
it's one small benefit of the terrible like year and a half we've kind of had. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I hate to say take it for granted. I don't know if like I could personally ever say, hey, I took for granted the free will to go and enjoy live entertainment.
Yeah.
But you sure as shit learn to appreciate it more.
Absolutely.
And I think that was tough. And I've had this discussion with others too. I think, maybe everybody gets like one vacation a year, maybe not. But what most of us all have is at least that, hey, WWE's coming in August, and here it is in June, and you're just working, you're at the grind, you're day in, day out. But man, I can't wait. I'm going to save a little bit of money, and we're going to go to the wrestling show, and we're going to, we'll go up to Cleveland, and we'll get a bite to eat and a beer beforehand, or a concert, or the Indians game. Like, there's all, you like to have just that one little, like, just something to look forward to, and all of that was gone.
Yeah.
There was nothing to look forward to.
Hopeless
at all.
Time, for sure.
Yeah.
And you really didn't even understand what was going on at the time, because there was a lot of weird shit going around. You know what I mean? I don't want to get into politics and stuff, but it was a very misleading time in a lot of different ways.
And I really think too, what hurt us was not having that common interest as the Cleveland Browns here in Ohio, or the Pittsburgh Steelers. You love one and you hate one, right? It doesn't matter who you voted for or how you feel about this issue. You get a group of people together, and half are Browns fans, half are Steelers fans. There's a villain and a hero to them. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, there's something to cheer for. There's something to be united on.
There's something, yeah.
It's that live entertainment for whatever it is. Like the WWE, AEW, any wrestling. Like, it's the same thing. A babyface is a babyface, and a heel is a heel. Yeah. And you want the hero to conquer the villain. It doesn't matter who they voted for. No, doesn't matter. Yeah. Color of skin doesn't matter, and not anymore. And that's, I think, a good change. I think there's been some changes in wrestling to take the focus off of race bait and things like that. But none of that matters. We want the person that we like to beat the person that we don't like.
Absolutely.
And that being gone made us kind of do that in real life to each other. Not me and you, not like we try to stay away from that stuff, but social media, you see it where it's just Republicans and Democrats or whatever it is. It's like they're each other's heels and baby faces in real fucking life. Like real people are going at each other like that.
Yeah. Art was imitating life, or vice versa, I guess.
Yeah.
It's a very strange time all around for wrestling, for the world, for everything, really, everyone.
So I think that's the thing. I think it's but certainly subconsciously, it's not like anybody thought like, well, I don't have my sports team to cheer for, so I'm going to go create my own conflict. And, nobody thought about that. But I think without having something to invest your time in, if you like wrestling and you like to follow the sites, or you like to watch shoot interviews, or you like just to watch old tape, if you watch everything on the current product, that's all stuff that you normally would devote your time to that you just really didn't have.
Yeah.
And I think that was detrimental to our society as a whole.
Yeah. I mean, it was probably beneficial. People had more time to do things they probably wanted to do and whatnot.
You'd hope so.
But a lot of people did dive headfirst into like internet bullshit.
Yes.
Absolutely.
That's why they chose to spend their time.
And it made it in shit. There's probably a conspiracy theory where it talks about like it was probably intentional or something.
Yeah.
I mean, just not to get on that shit, but that's just how hard of a dive it took like that. You know what I mean?
And that, you think people probably, because that's what was on everybody's mind. That's what all media was talking about. It's what's at the forefront of everybody's mind.
And that's what was always in your fucking hand.
Right. And what wasn't was WrestleMania.
WWE Network is just dying.
Well, that's fuck Peacock.
Oh my god, Peacock's terrible.
But no, when WrestleMania season is around, and again, look, Royal Rumble 2020. I was over at Patrick Hayes' house watching that. We did the same thing we always do, where we do the numbers. We draw numbers, and if your number person wins, so I think McIntyre was like 13 and I had it, so we'd put in like $2 a number and the winner gets the pot, so it makes it fun for the group to watch. And there's 2 Rumbles to do it. That was Edge's return. That was a moment. They were watching with friends, and
it was a good Rumble all around from what I remember.
It was a really good Rumble, and it had you excited, kind of gearing into Mania. And then I actually remember being at Harmon's Pub playing trivia. I think Jeff was there, but I know Josh was there. Yeah, I think it was Josh and Jeff. And we seen, it was Rudy Gobert was the basketball player's name for the Jazz. And they said that he was there in the locker room, tested positive. And they're like, that's when it was like, it's here. They sent the crowd home at halftime. And it's like, we knew it then. We're like, this is it. Everything's going to be shutting down. We knew it was coming. And yeah, I'm trying to think when it was. I can't remember the February pay-per-view in between Raw and Rumble and Mania.
Is that
Fastlane? I think that still might have been with a live crowd.
I can't remember.
Memory's not the best on that.
It's all kind of been a blur.
Yeah, but yes, but I remember watching a Raw and watching Edge and Randy Orton's program and all that happening with no crowd, and I'm really excited. Edge is here, and this is a feud that was a really good feud. Orton gave Beth the RKO and gave him the concerto, and
that was
it's a really good feud. And having with no crowd reaction was just I don't want to watch this. It was just empty. It was a very empty feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really remember much about it really. Because like I said, it's all been a blur, but I didn't really mind it that much. It was 2 nights again, wasn't it?
Mania ended up being 2 nights. It was the first time, and we figured it made sense. It made sense in that mold because there was no crowd. So, I think that was always the one thing holding it up was if you were a ticket buyer and you wanted to go to WrestleMania, you're like, well, no, I want to see all of these things that I paid for.
Yeah.
But as fans, I think 2 nights is definitely better because those Manias, man, would start at 5 and then at midnight they would be long nights of wrestling.
And it was good because they did it on a Saturday and a Sunday, which was probably best for people.
No, I like that a lot.
I think they should always do it. It should be WrestleMania weekend. Make it like Comic-Con. Friday's the Hall of Fame. And their convention thing that they do, and then Saturday, Sunday.
Then they had Saturday was NXT for a while, and if you recall, NXT would always seem to outshine them, and they made it. Yeah, they've separated them now, where NXT's running, off of when WWE or Raw has their pay-per-views. Well, one thing that came out of it, and I think that started at WrestleMania, was the cinematic matches when they had Taker and AJ and then Bray and Cena.
What do you think of the Taker and AJ?
I was going to ask you the same thing. Why don't you take the lead on it? I'm bringing it up. I was going to ask you what you thought.
When I realized what it was going to be, I kind of put my hand in my head.
Yeah.
And just again, this is going to be awful.
Yeah.
I ended up really enjoying it.
Yeah.
It was a really good way to kind of send them off, even though I'm pretty sure at the time it wasn't certain that was going to be the way to send them off.
You know,
I think when it was so well received, they went ahead and he's like, yeah, it's not going to get better than that.
It's good enough, right?
But I enjoyed it. It was well done. It wasn't cheesy, really. It kind of was, but in a good way.
Yeah.
In an old school sort of way.
Yeah.
And who better than AJ Styles?
Oh, to be the fourth. He was great. And their production team is second to none. They always have been.
Absolutely.
So when they did that, it wasn't going to be, if there was a little bit of cheese to it, and that's fine, but it was intended to be there, and they did it well.
Yeah, it was very self-aware.
Yeah. And what I thought though too was it was a great break from wrestling in an empty arena. Again, watching wrestling match after wrestling match, even if they were good, and a lot of them were. I remember Charlotte and Rhea Ripley had a great match at that Muse Mania.
Yeah.
But even if the match was good, I felt like I was watching it because I was supposed to. It's WrestleMania.
Yeah.
I wasn't even really enjoying it and then having the first was Undertaker and AJ, where it's like, this was a hell of a lot of fun. And it wasn't a wrestling match. It wasn't a wrestling match. It wasn't Jim Cornette's wrestling.
Yeah.
But it was a hell of a lot of fun. And it made me smile because I'm like, we've been missing fun.
Yeah.
That was, of course, at the beginning of the pandemic, but still, it's like we've been missing fun in our lives, and that was fun. What did you think of Bray Wyatt and Cena, the Firefly Funhouse deal?
And when he goes to whatever weird world that is, and
Yeah.
it has no real ending.
Yeah.
That I thought was absolutely ridiculous.
You didn't like the ending at all?
No, it made no sense, and then there was no payoff. He even brought that up recently. Didn't he?
Yeah. It didn't feel. Cena's weird and polarizing, where I didn't even feel like a loss. Like in his thing with Taker at WrestleMania with the 2 minutes, it didn't feel like a loss in a match. It felt like a segment, that you would remember. And obviously I don't think they were intending it to be a wrestling match. It was captivating though, the Firefly Funhouse. I thought, I was very interested to see what was going to happen next.
No, I completely dug. That was one of the best things I had going, the whole Bray Wyatt Firefly Funhouse.
Right.
I think I even talked about before that I thought Fox had a hard-on for the whole idea because they were really pushing it. But it seems like they just kept having him lose, and they just botched it completely in the end.
They absolutely did.
You're not supposed to do that.
It's such a weird character because
you just dominated and just it had to be Cena to take him down, but even Cena couldn't take him down or something.
Yeah.
And then they just gave it to Alexa, which I love.
Yeah. The character, how long are the legs on a character like that? And not that the characters are comparable.
As long as you can make it. And they didn't even really try, it seems. And
I guess the characters aren't comparable, but I think back to Goldust, and you debut this character late 95 when, nobody was ready for anything like that.
No.
The Undertaker was spooky, and even Papa Shango was spooky, but Goldust and all the different layers that he was, and androgynous, as Vince likes to say, but any sort of touch on homosexuality in 95 and not played for laughs, played for uncomfortability. It was a very interesting character. And then if you think about the Goldust, the real run that he had was 95. By early 97, he's in a babyface role, and it's just, so it wasn't long. Very memorable character. Everybody will remember. But as far as the act, and then as he got into the artist formerly known as Goldust, nobody, there was obviously the wheels had fallen off at that point.
Once he became a mid-carder and shit. Yeah.
So with Bray and the Fiend, you're right though. They had him. They kind of booked themselves into a corner. They had him square off with Rollins pretty much right away. Won the belt. And then it's how do we get off him? And God, Goldberg's never the right answer. WWE Goldberg is never the right answer.
No, I actually issue online with that.
Yeah, and then they get him the Cena thing with the Firefly Funhouse. It did make creative Vince, whomever, really start thinking outside the box on what we can do, because the Fiend in an empty arena with John Cena in a wrestling match. I don't know. I guess it would have been different, and if you didn't enjoy how it ended, which you're right, there was no payoff, so who's to say if it would or wouldn't be better?
It was cool. It was just, it seemed pointless. And they did cool things with it, but I'm not really a big fan of John Cena anyway. And I he's good at what he does. I don't like John Cena in general. I like him in movies and stuff, just the gimmick and
you're not a fan
of John Cena just.
Well, and they did that, which in reality, now that I think about it, you got to kind of credit Matt Hardy was the first to do the cinematic wrestling matches in TNA when they had the so I think he was probably actually the first to do it, but WWE was bold and did it at a WrestleMania of all things, and that kind of got the ball rolling. AEW did a few of them. The WWE, I remember Braun and Bray and like the Swamp and stuff like that. Like
they did that shit with Randy Orton.
Yeah, you're right. They did it with Randy Orton prior too.
They went to, like,
that was before.
home
So I guess it wasn't brand new to do the cinematic matches, but they had to be leaned on a little heavier during the pandemic. Just
Did you do something with New Day right after?
The Wyatts and New Day had a fight on the compound. Yeah. Well, let's switch gears, man. Let's talk about AEW. You've been keeping up with them all year long?
Not really. Like when it's not on some subscription service that I have, like Hulu or something, it's really hard. I gotta then like find them or download them or something, and it becomes a pain in the ass.
Right.
So I wish if anybody from AEW or has any stock at AEW can put that shit on Hulu where I don't have to like get the live shit, do it, please. I would gladly watch.
Thought it was, but maybe that was just with Plus. Maybe it was just
I mean, unless you upgrade, and when I go to it, if I look it up right now, it says available with live.
Yeah,
so you can only watch it live.
You can watch it with the premium, subscription.
And I'm not gonna do that. I already pay the bundle.
They have YouTube shows. They got their Dark, which, I mean, I guess if you wanted to try to showcase some talent, that's on there. I know they do that AEW Dark, and a lot of local independent guys, get to go on there, which, you hope for them that gets them a good look, and I mean, it's more exposure. AEW is by far the number 2 brand, so hopefully it's good exposure for them. But
I think it is, because I mean, even it's not to compare it to the War, because it's not really, but AEW's beat them in the ratings many times.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, NXT moved to Tuesday nights, and whether it was a direct correlation or not.
It's definitely good exposure, I would think.
But that being said, they never win. Not one. Every once in a while you figure it's a good independent talent, and they're probably relying on those independent talents to, like, if you're a big star in the Pittsburgh, Cleveland area, well, yeah, because I've watched Matthew Justice was on there, who's a guy from Cleveland, and I've watched some other Pittsburgh guys. There's Duke Davis and Gannon Jones are the main event out of Pittsburgh. So I'm like, I know these guys, and I'd like to see them.
Yeah.
And they give them a little bit in the matches. It's not like a 1992 Superstars squash match, but they never win. No. Like, and it's like you think you can maybe make a guy by having them beat Angelico or whoever the hell it is. Like, because the thing is the AEW roster outside of the top guys, nobody, they're not real stars either. Like, you could maybe try to make a new independent, a star from the independents and create your own.
Yeah. Well, and then, I mean, they're snagging people up.
They definitely are.
They're saying they just snagged up Daniel Bryan.
Bryan and Punk.
I don't think it's been confirmed about Punk, but it seems very likely. But I also heard that WWE is trying to steal Punk.
Yeah.
Trying to get him back.
Seems
pretty unlikely, but I'm thinking, I mean, how much comic book money could Punk really be making right now? Not much. What's the name of Punk's comic book?
I don't have a clue.
Exactly.
I'm not a comics guy, but I'm a big Punk guy.
I am. And like, I try to stay up with that. I'm not a huge comics guy. Not really anymore. They're expensive now. But like, I don't know the name of it. Feel free to say in the comments if you do. But my point is you offer him enough money, he'll probably come back to WWE.
No, money's going to talk. I would think AEW might fit him more as far as he probably have more leeway in his schedule.
Absolutely. And more say in what he wants to do.
More say in what he wants to do. He'd
be top dog in that.
That's the thing. He'd come in top banana. He'd be like, and I do feel he is in a position where he doesn't need it.
Biggest star there.
So he could come in and say, like, well, you want me, this is what I'm going to do, and this is what I'm going to get paid. And he would do what was right for business. It's not like he'd say, I'm going to come and beat everybody and then leave. He knows his stuff. And what's interesting to me, though, is he's been outspoken. He's always been outspoken. And he's said, like, wrestling isn't a fun product anymore. Like, the wrestling that's all around that's available isn't fun for him anymore.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, it's not fun anymore because you don't have people like you that want to make it fun anymore. Like,
that's a good point.
I mean, AEW does have those people, and they try to. It's just, they're just not up to par.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. Like, a lot of the wrestlers, there's... Botch City in that place.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I mean, I haven't been paying too much attention, so I can't really talk too much. But I remember the women's division not being great.
It's still not. Britt Baker is excellent in her role. She's got an excellent character.
I've caught things here and there.
Some of the girls can wrestle, and I've had this conversation before. When you know, like our good buddy John Thomas will always talk about like, oh, these guys are great, great wrestlers, great workers. It's like, dude, good wrestling is available everywhere. Yeah. Good wrestling is a dime a dozen nowadays. Like every program. I mean, Seth Rollins has been fantastic for the WWE for the last like 7 years. Yeah. And you kind of take it for granted. AJ Styles has been awesome his whole fucking career.
You can't miss it, seems. You cannot miss.
And you maybe even take that for because it's like, yeah, it's an AJ Styles match. Like here, he's going to be awesome because he's awesome every time. But it's like you're not tuning in to see the great wrestling like was big in the mid 2000s when you'd have like your MVPs and Kennedy and guys like that where it's like, okay, they're characters, but like the wrestling isn't that great. And I want to watch Ring of Honor or even sometimes some TNA with like AJ Styles and
some older stuff,
Low Key and Daniels and those guys. Like I want to see amazing wrestling. Yeah, you get it everywhere now. Like the highest high spots have already been hit.
No, like it's really like what is there left to do? And at this point, you're gonna have to start rehashing storylines and just modernizing them or making you know what I mean, making them their own. Like do another Montreal Screwjob or something, but just in a different light.
Yeah, exactly. But
that's really what you have to do at this point.
But altered enough to where it's not retread and it's not redundant. Exactly. Actually, it's funny because I sent a meme to Josh and Jeff that had. Do you remember around WrestleMania 8 time? I mean, I know you're really young. But Ric Flair was showing photos with him and Elizabeth, and it was pissing off the Macho Man. They found out that he doctored the photos. Okay. So the meme was like, Ric Flair like flirting with Elizabeth, and it said, "The original, your wife's in my DMs."
That's really relevant.
But it's very relevant. And there you go. That's a storyline, of the she was mine before she was yours. That was Flair and Elizabeth to Macho, and he was full of shit. Yeah. But Ric Flair's getting him fired up. So your wife is in my DMs. Yeah. That's the same thing. That's pro wrestling, but keeping it current, and that would draw attention. I think that'd be a good story. What never changes is people love a good story, whether it's in a movie, it's in a book, if it's in an album. We love a good story.
Most important part,
and it's missing. And I'm not just knocking it because it's not easy. But you got to have characters that you're invested in. Your best stories have great characters. There Will Be Blood wasn't a terribly exciting premise to a movie. It's about an oil baron. But Daniel Day-Lewis as the character was so good that you wanted to see what happened next. So you can put a great character into any story, which, to this day, I still think Randy Orton is one of the best wrestlers in the business today, definitely of all time. Not because he can hit every crazy high spot, and he can do great. He's a great in-ring worker, but it's not because he can do the shit that the Young Bucks can. But man, when Randy Orton's on your screen, you want to see what he's going to do. Yeah. You want to hear what he has to say. You want to see what he's going to do next. So the story that he's involved in is usually pretty entertaining.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I guess I lost my thought there, but you don't really know what to expect, but you know to expect something good at least. Like kind of like AJ Styles in a way. He's not going to really let you down.
Right. No, not at all.
Like it might be something you saw before. It might be, it might not be the most exciting thing, but it's going to be a consistently good match.
Well, speaking of Orton, what did you think with his storyline with the Fiend? We can kind of come back around with that again. I think that's when it.
That's when it died. Really.
Yeah.
And, do you know why it died?
I truly don't. I don't know if it was just. If they're thinking internally what we just said, we ran this character until the wheels fell off. And
well, I heard that it was Brody Lee dying.
You think that
they were homies, and
they were very, very.
It
close.
hit him hard. Like he was very affected by it, is what I heard.
So you think Bray personally is taking some time off just to be at home and
to mourn? Yeah, essentially.
Yeah, they were very, very, very close, and that is a tragedy. I mean,
I don't know how much truth that there is to that. I'm sure there's some truth to it.
Yeah,
but I don't know if that's really the reason he hasn't come back or anything. I'm sure there's a lot of. It's very complicated, like
when he comes back, they'll probably revisit whatever with Alexa again, and I don't know how much I really want to see that. I mean, you kind of have to. You gotta wrap that up.
That's the one thing I actually think they have going for them right now is the whole Alexa Bliss thing. Like, that's the one thing I do kind of like. Like, if I'm doing something while SmackDown's on, like, I hear Alexa Bliss, I pop back up and start like, that's probably because I think she's super hot. And I totally dig the way she looks in this gimmick.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, I want to see where they're going to go with it. Like, I enjoy the character. They're just lacking real thing. And it looks like they're kind of building up to, like, the shit with Ava Marie and Honey Dew or whatever.
Dewdrop, yeah.
Dewdrop, yeah.
Which, you know, I think Eva Marie has a very, very natural unlikability to her.
Yeah. I mean, how far could it go? I would imagine anything good with it would probably be involved with Dewdrop.
Yeah.
Because Ava Marie, from what I could tell, has never really been much of a...
No, in-ring wrestling, but she has a natural ability to not be liked. Yeah, which is a good thing. It's a great thing in wrestling.
Yeah. It's just... And I mean, that's kind of her gimmick, is you hate her because she's not good at wrestling.
Yeah.
And she's working that right now.
Yeah, she was. I remember her first run in NXT. I think she had a match with Asuka, and they were... and they had somebody else run in too to kind of like, but it made you pissed. You're like, I want to see Asuka kill her. Like, this is what I want to see. And that's being a really good heel. When we talk about Alexa and you talk about Bray, and you say, well, you are looking forward to seeing what's going to happen with that. I think that's always a key thing in wrestling. If you can create a story where you're asking questions, I think it's always good.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, nowadays it is what it is when you're on the internet and everybody's talking, everybody has an opinion, everybody's is an internet booker. You know, everybody has either wants to think they know what's going to happen or truly believes they know what's going to happen. I don't know if we can ever get away from that, but it's not very fun. You know, it's much better to just enjoy the match as it's presented to you and take it for what it's worth. We just saw Bobby Lashley destroy Kofi Kingston on a pay-per-view heavyweight title match, and everybody right away is like, oh, well, we knew that's going to happen because they're just getting him ready for Goldberg at SummerSlam. Why do you want to know what's going to happen? Why, you know, why do you want to know that this is what's going to be presented to me and that's what happened? Like, that's not fun.
Yeah, you're spoiling it for yourself, really.
Spoiling it for yourself. Like, yeah, and they maybe could have done a better job of giving Kofi a little bit of hope where you're like, maybe they really are going to try this Kofi thing again to get it taken away.
Yeah.
But, you know, you walk out of that just kind of dismissive of the whole thing because, hey, we knew that was going to happen. Well, that's what's supposed to happen.
That's kind of just, you're just, it's predictable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just become predictable. What they need to do is throw a wrench in there and just go the exact, like, if they're like, you know what, we should do this. Like, if they're going to make last minute changes, the last minute change should be like, you know what, let's just go the absolute opposite direction, see where that goes. Well, like, they just need to take chances.
And they did it with Nikki. You know, absolutely. I mean, they absolutely did.
I'm very happy about
right, and it does. It's a wrench in the completely opposite direction. You got the.
I have a theory about it.
You got an alpha versus an alpha. It's Charlotte and Rhea, and you could picture them fighting each other the rest of the year. Alternating wins. Matches are always going to be awesome. That's good.
Yeah.
There's a huge wrench in the plans with Nikki, who is very, very, very rarely used leading up to it. Yeah. Changes the gimmick, wins the match, wins the belt, and it's like interesting.
Even the
like I want to see what happened. Yeah, I want to see what happens now. Like I want to see how they handle it, where they go from here. It's at least interesting. It might be good, it might not be, but at least I'm interested.
Yeah, but I have an this probably won't happen, but. I feel like Nikki coming out of nowhere with this new gimmick and going on top isn't so just like off the cuff. Like, think about how successful like Marvel's been lately.
Sure.
You have an almost superhero who has a lot to prove right now.
Sure.
You have a villain named Alexa Bliss who used to be your best friend.
Yeah.
That's essentially the character arc for most great villain and great hero. Like
good versus evil.
They should, if they're not going this route, they should do something like that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of potential in that.
And it can be, you know, it can be presented as a little campy, but campy's not always bad.
Campy's
yeah,
very often great.
Yeah.
Actually, especially nowadays in this nostalgia era. But they're good friends. They always had good chemistry. I would imagine there's nothing but potential there if they just let them do their thing.
Yeah, when you were thinking evil, I was thinking Charlotte because she is the pillar.
Yeah, but Charlotte's not much of a character.
But you're saying actually playing an evil character, a very obvious evil character.
Almost superhero. She's going to eventually be superhero.
Right, obvious hero. It would be interesting.
I mean,
it'd be a fun story to tell.
It's an idea anyway. It's something that they really haven't really done before. I don't know if they did something similar with Hurricane Helms or something.
And I mean, it's better than having, which I do hate Naomi, but it's better than having Naomi versus Carmella. Naomi's a smiling babyface and Carmella's hot and she's bad. Yeah, so there's our story. They're wrestling. Like you can do that forever.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a more interesting concept than that. But when we're talking about our women, I'm going to miss Bailey this next coming year. She's out for the torn ACL. I think her and Sasha both may have been the MVPs of the Thunderdome era. I really believe that.
Oh,
they were both so good.
Bailey,
the matches are always good.
Herself.
She's
much better than she was.
When she was in the smiling ponytail Bailey role, like where people would, you'd think like, well, was a heel turn possible? You're like, how in the hell is she going to be a heel? Like she's, genuinely likable. How's she gonna be a heel? That's a testament to her, to how good she is. That she, like you said, completely reinvented herself, reinvented her work, reinvented her look, reinvented her attitude, went all in on it, and was awesome.
And made herself pretty unlikable. Like you get pretty annoyed with that laugh after.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. The ding dong. I mean, she was great. Again, her and Sasha both in the Golden Role Models team, going into winning all the belts for a minute and then into their split and their feud and their matches. I really do. I think they're my MVPs from the whole Thunderdome era.
Yeah.
You feel bad for like a Drew McIntyre because they gave it to him and like he's still really hasn't had a chance to be the guy.
No.
With see what the crowds react to him because he didn't have crowds.
No, you're right. Those are all like great nominations for MVPs of which I love, by the way, the Thunderdome era. That's a good term.
That's really what it was. That's what we're going to remember it as.
For sure. That's probably what they'll call it, too.
Do you have any other nominees off the top of your head? We didn't talk about any of this beforehand, so,
I mean, I'd throw Alexa Bliss out there.
She
completely reinvented herself.
She did,
That kind of was at the start of it, but, like, she took the reins.
The Fiend makes you see your dark side.
Rhea Ripley?
Well, Rhea was still...
I mean, she had her rise in NXT.
Yeah, it was NXT.
Her main roster rise was really over the last year and a half, I would think.
I thought she debuted at this last year's Rumble for the main roster, if I'm not mistaken.
Was it that?
I think so. Recently? It was her. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Yeah. Because she had the match at this year's WrestleMania.
Yeah. So I think
because she was entered into the Rumble.
I think she was still doing NXT at that point with like Io Shirai and
It was between two NXT girls and Charlotte in the end.
Yeah, it was with Bianca and.
So it was like which
Rhea,
NXT girl is going to win because you're pretty sure they were going to use Charlotte to push them.
Sure. Which, Bianca has the rocket strapped to her right now. I won't say that she hasn't earned it because she's really upped her game.
Yeah.
A lot. I'm still not a huge fan. I don't really, obviously as a white, fat male, I don't quite, as she really embraces the EST and that character and it's big and it's boisterous,
Yeah.
It's not... it's not really resonating with me, but you do have to respect, man. She got way better really fast.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I didn't follow her too much in NXT, but like she hasn't. I mean, I haven't seen anything laughable or to make fun of
her and Sasha was almost certainly the best match of the first night of Mania.
For sure, that match was so good. They talked about it in like mainstream media and shit.
Oh yeah,
ESPN and like I can't even remember, but there was another big one that I was like, wow. Can't even remember what it was.
Well, and it got, it was a big deal to have two black women main event at WrestleMania, and it was night one, you can call it what it is, but the main event at WrestleMania, Sasha Banks is fucking awesome. I've
for sure.
always been just huge on Sasha Banks. She's a star. She is a fucking star. Like you look at her, that you want to see more of her. Like she has star power. So that's there was a big deal for both of them. You could tell, and they didn't shit the bed at all. They didn't drop that ball. It was presented. They had a big opportunity. They were put in a big spot, and they delivered and some. It was a fantastic match.
Definitely.
which is good, man. That's a really good thing that you can have two women headline the night of WrestleMania. They give them the spot, they delivered, and it's now you feel like your options are a little bit wider with with wrestling in general going forward.
And it helps the business too, because especially with it being a WrestleMania match, a lot of eyes are on WrestleMania that aren't usually on wrestling.
Exactly. Yeah, we're doing the coverage, and then everybody knows what WrestleMania is. If you can't name any other pay-per-view, if you're a casual Joe Schmo, you know what WrestleMania is.
Even people I know that don't give two shits about wrestling. I'm like, hey, WrestleMania weekend, you want to come out? And they'll be like, really? Yeah, maybe I will.
It's an event. It's the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't have to watch a football game all year, but you're probably going to watch the Super Bowl, and if nothing else, you're going to get together with some friends and eat some pizza and drink some beer and enjoy an event.
Yeah, it's a big thing that people enjoy. Why not?
Presented to you as an event. Man, just to kind of go way off the cuff, I actually ordered a Ring of Honor pay-per-view a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, man. I'll tell you, and this is, again, we're kind of just...
I couldn't tell you anybody on the Ring of Honor roster.
Well, when we get done with this, you know who the Briscoes are, right? Jay and Mark, they've been around for a while.
Absolutely.
They had a fight on the Briscoe farm, which it was. I won't even say it was presented as cinematic because it was one. I think maybe two cameras and no other audio except for just what it was, and they're just fighting, beating the shit out of each other on the farm, and it felt like a real fight. Like,
nice.
Papa Briscoe was not even a referee, but just monitoring it, making sure it was a fair fight and everything. Hell of a lot of fun, but to kind of get this all back around again, we haven't talked about wrestling since last January because there wasn't much to talk about. I mean, wrestling was happening, but it wasn't fun, and I didn't feel like it would have been fun to get together and talk to you about it. I didn't have fun talking to anybody. It wasn't a lot of fun talking in general last year.
Yeah. And again, we've said this many times before that we kind of aren't a show where we talk week to week about what's currently going on in wrestling because it doesn't have a lot of rewatch.
Right.
But I guess this episode is completely outside the norm because it's just kind of an update episode, a return to form sort of.
And we need to do it. I mean, with this. We got a year's worth to talk about, and basically we're talking about why we weren't talking.
This is a catch up.
Yeah, but as I was saying, I got the Ring of Honor just because I'm back, I'm fired up for wrestling again, man. Crowds are back. I personally have been back wrestling, where the independents shut down. Mid Ohio Wrestling was my home promotion. They didn't come out of it of COVID, not as much financially as much as just Dave had the year off and was just he had a good run and I'm done.
A lot can happen in a year.
So I got that Ring of Honor pay-per-view just because I'd seen it was on. It was a Sunday night, and I'm like, I had nothing else to do. I'm like, hell yeah, let's get it. $10 or whatever.
What pay-per-view was it?
Let's see. What was the name of the pay-per-view? Was it Death Before Dishonor? Or I'm not sure what the name of the pay-per-view even was. I just know I got the Ring of Honor pay-per-view. The Briscoes were on there. EC3 was on there.
Okay. I forgot all about EC3.
Homicide is back with them, which I was always a big fan of. Him and Chris Dickinson actually won the tag titles that night. And then there's guys that I've heard of, like Brody King. I've heard the name quite a bit. He's a prospect, man. He's probably about 6'4", 6'5", just stout, 270 pounds, big, thick dude, covered in tattoos, and the dude could work. He had a great match with Jay Lethal.
Future WWE guy.
It'd be hard to imagine them passing up on it.
Younger guy?
That's the thing. I think he's been around a little while. I think he's a West Coast guy, so
I don't mean much. They're bringing back Goldberg and Edge.
Well, there you go. We were more familiar here Midwest, East Coast because that's what's closer to us. For our independents, I think he's been a West Coast based guy, but I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, if they can use and push, carry, and cross, they should get this guy because this guy looks the part and he can work. And I was thoroughly impressed. Another guy by the name of Jonathan Gresham, who's been paired with Jay Lethal for a while, and he is he's short, but he's built like a brick shit house. And he's one of these guys that they have the pure division where they you can only get 3 rope breaks per match. Once they're out, if you get put into submission, you're in the ropes. It doesn't matter.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's meant to be more standard
your battles there.
Mat-based wrestling and telling that story too. Yeah, if you get caught and if you need to use it or can you get out, and he is phenomenal, just phenomenal talent.
That adds a whole nother layer to think that adds a whole other side of strategy to it. I like that.
It was a lot of fun. He wrestled Mike Bennett, who was Mike Kanellis in the WWE for a little while.
Okay.
And I was never really a big fan of his, but he had an excellent match. So I would another thing to maybe seek out if you get a chance. It'd be worth your time.
Where can you get, like, where was it, like Bleacher Report or something?
Fight TV, the Fight TV
Okay.
app, and they have something called the Honor Club, which for some reason I haven't fired up, but I think it's their version of like an app network where they have their
How much was it?
$10,
$10,
$10 for the month. So I think it'd be probably worth. And it went right on my Amazon because my Amazon's through the Fire
So do you
Stick.
get
So
like Fight TV for like a month, or do you just
yeah,
get the
well,
pay-per-view?
you get that pay-per-view, but I joined the Honor Club, which I logged in and signed up for. So I think they have a whole bunch of their footage and all their library available on
So it's
there.
kind of like a Ring of Honor network.
Yeah, and Impact has theirs as well.
Cool, but for like the $10,
$10
whatever, you get it for like a month.
Yeah, I don't have much going on after we're done here today, so I'm probably gonna go home and check some of that out just
Hell yeah,
because
that's
it's
awesome.
pretty cool thing. But that's so I'm back invested in wrestling. I keep up with AEW. Man, for the life of me, I just don't think it's a good TV show. I don't.
I like I said, I don't get to watch it often, but when I hear stuff happens, or I hear like the last thing I watched was Double or Nothing,
Mm-hmm.
and that wasn't bad. It had its moments.
Was that the most recent one with?
It was the most recent Double or Nothing, whenever it was. It was like a month or two ago, I think.
Oh, now here this is what's
hard for me
bad.
to tell you.
I'm trying to think of what the main event was. So, I had the stadium match.
Yeah.
Did you watch that? The 5-on-5.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I watched that pay-per-view as well. And again, the wrestling was for the most part pretty good.
Yeah.
I think with AEW, I think here's my main issue. Outside of Darby Allin and maybe MJF, I'll give MJF this too. They haven't created. There's nobody there that's AEW, that's an AEW star, that's like, oh man, I'm so glad AEW has these guys and I want to watch them.
Yeah.
Like Kenny Omega, I actually think even now as the champion, belt collector, and the whole thing, I still think his star faded a little bit. Coming out of New Japan, I think he was hotter.
Yeah. For sure.
John Moxley is one of the top guys, and it's not at all a knock on his work or what he's done, but I feel like I have my fill of him in the WWE. Like it's not. I'm not. Oh my God, I can't wait to see what Moxley's doing. Definitely don't really care to see what Jericho's doing, and I was always a big Chris Jericho fan, but it's nothing that interesting to me now. The Revival, FTR, love them. They actually had a really good match with the Bucks, but I think they kind of hot-shotted that and blew that because now they're not, and they don't use them much on TV. They were in that 5-on-5, kind of a clusterfuck of a match. So it's like, hey, I really like these guys, but I want to see them in a good tag match against a good tag team because that's what they're good at.
Yeah.
And it's not presented to me. So I'm not.
So what? They're just not giving them matches, or
They don't know. They never
Or they
wrestle as
just
a
blew
tag
their-
team ever on TV. Ever.
Wow.
It's a weird show, and you got to get Cody Rhodes 30 fucking minutes every episode too.
That's crazy, dude. Like,
Do we want to talk about how much we hate Cody Rhodes?
like that's a problem. Everything is so. That's a whole podcast. There.
I got 2 hours. I got 2 hours at least to talk about how much I hate Cody Rhodes.
I understand the hate.
Yeah.
But it just seems like they rush everything to hell anymore. Like, put Cody Rhodes on for 30 minutes every other week or every couple weeks or something. Otherwise, throw like a little bits of him in there and like a little promo or a little backstage segment or something. But everything seems like it's done in 2 weeks, or like everything just moves so rapidly. Stretch it out. You know what I mean?
Well, and again, I follow the TV program. I watch as much as I can stomach, to be honest with you, because I just don't enjoy it.
Yeah.
But the last pay-per-view was Cody Rhodes against a trainee at his school that they built for some reason a U.S. versus England feud, which makes no sense. And you can always have the trainee going after the trainer storyline. That's fine, but they put it all together in like for a 1 month build, and that was it. And every week was a segment, 15 minutes long, contract signing and talking about, then there was UK versus America for some reason. And it's like, and I can't stand Cody Rhodes, but that was just a terrible storyline no matter who's involved with it.
Yeah.
And the fact that you rush it, Cody won, and it's like, what was the point?
It's like
there
they
was
didn't
no
even
point. You
give
didn't
you-
make a new guy. I don't think that guy's been on TV since.
And they didn't give you enough time to even give a shit about it.
No, you got a new character, a new potential star. You hope to be a star. He has a great look, and by all accounts, he's not a bad worker. But you just throw it in here without any build. You have Cody beat him, and then he's on to other things, and you just go, what was the point? Why did we do that? Why did we waste our TV time doing this?
I didn't see it, but like from the way you're describing it, it was seemingly just like they didn't know what to do. Like it was just filler, you know.
Yeah.
Like Cody needed something to do, or
That's all it was. Cody needed something to do, and they built a storyline just out of nothing, and it ended up being nothing. And why? And now, and this means again, I can't stand Cody, but just being unbiased aside, if you don't have anything for him to do, don't use him for a month. And then when come back with something to do, it's more exciting. It's you for the people who are fans. Hey, you're excited to see him back. But to just have waste, now he's on your TV with a big entrance every single week.
Yeah.
Wasting your time, and you don't like what's being presented. Well, now you really took whatever stock you had in him and kind of lost that too.
Well, especially when him and the others that started the whole company, their whole point was to let the other stars shine bright, to let people do their thing, and
sure doesn't feel that way, does it? As Omega,
Omega's got
and
every belt,
and the Bucks are the champions, and Cody gets 20-minute segments with a guy that nobody knows.
Yeah.
And QT Marshall. Like,
yeah, well, I mean, who knows? Maybe things are gonna change. They're bringing in Daniel Bryan, supposedly CM Punk. I mean.
Well, they
just
already
do
did.
The same thing with them.
They already brought in Aleister Black, who I'm a huge fan of.
Yeah.
Huge fan. And they sprayed right away with Cody. And I mean, I put a thing on Facebook,
I saw that.
like joking, but not.
No.
I'm not joking. Like, I don't want to see it. Like, you brought in a character that I'm a fan of. I would love to see what he does. You know, if he's with MJF, awesome. If he's with Omega, of course, that's awesome. If he's with Adam Page, cool, man. Like, I'm kind of excited. You put him with Cody, and I don't care.
It's almost like they need some sort of like ranking system, like that. That's kind of what they were.
They were supposed to with the wins and losses matter.
He's just number 2 contender. Like.
Something.
Why not just do that? Like, have him. He just came in. Why would he be feuding with somebody who's probably high up there?
Yeah.
Which has Cody held the
They have their
title
TV title and their TNT, which is like their television title.
But he hasn't held the
heavyweight title now.
Well, I guess that's one thing he hasn't done.
Oh no, that's him trying to tell you, like, no, I don't put myself over all the time.
Yeah.
I'm fine, just like his daddy.
Yeah.
Just like his fucking daddy, man. And this year, I like all the Conrad networks of podcasts. You know, start with something to wrestle with. But I like what happened with Tony Schiavone. And this year, they were just going in order all of 1986 World Championship Wrestling, Jim Crockett Promotions.
Okay.
You know, week by week. Those are all the studio wrestling. The ones you always see the Dusty Rhodes or the Ric Flair promo clips, you know?
Yeah.
That was the studio wrestling every week. And man, it's actually it's a lot of fun. Now it's gone off of the network because fucking Peacock. So it's gone now, but you watch it week after week, and Shivani would break down what would happen. And like, you'd see like Dusty would cut a promo, and Flair would cut a promo that was way better because Flair's awesome. And then later in the show, you'd have Dusty coming out to kind of talk about how cool he is again, and how I seen Ric Flair out here dancing and try to get himself back over. And Shivani would even say, like, there wasn't in the format, but Dusty was the booker, so if he wanted to go out and cut an interview, he was going to go cut an interview.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way about Cody now. It's like, what? You started your own wrestling promotion to show everybody how good and how cool you are? Fuck you. Yeah. Like, no, you're not. No, you're not. And Dusty Rhodes is always in everybody's top 5 for promos of all time. And by all means, he was good. He was good at them.
Yeah.
But you wrote the show. You wrote the show
you wrote it
to talk about how cool and how good you are. Yeah. And if you go back and watch this, Magnum TA, I'm sure it's a name you know, but you're probably not real familiar with his work. Man, in 1986, that dude was over. He was a fucking rock star to the fans. Like, he went out there and the crowds went nuts. So guess who his tag team partner is? Oh, it's Dusty Rhodes with Megan TA. We're America's team. Like, fuck you. The Rock and Roll Express were over like crazy in 86. Guess who's helping them win? The Road Warriors. Fucking, that's when they were blowing up. They were over. Guess who's a 6-man champion with them? Somehow Dusty Rhodes was the number 1 contender for every single belt in the company. He's feuding with Tully Blanchard, Art Anderson, the Midnight Express, and Ric Flair all at the same time. Yeah. Like, yeah, okay, so Dusty Rhodes is always one of the greatest of all time. Because he wrote the fucking show and made him the greatest of all time. It doesn't count.
It's like
so fuck you and your son.
Like Joseph Gordon-Levitt, you know who that is?
Oh, of course.
The actor. He wrote a movie called Don John where he played.
Yeah.
He wrote the movie and directed where he played
a ladies' man.
A porn addict.
Yeah.
Whose girlfriend was Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah.
Like, oh, of course, he wrote the fucking movie.
Yeah, Mark Thomas Goes to Hollywood. Yeah, you're gonna see Mark Thomas with the wrestling fan that chases Alexa Bliss and wins her heart.
Yeah, right. Becky Lynch or something.
Written by Mark Thomas. Yeah.
Get married, have kids. Yeah.
Have kids. We're gonna do this in real life though to make it authentic. Those are our real kids too.
Exactly.
You wrote this shit. Jesus Christ. That's what drives me. It just drives me bonkers. It really does. And so it goes back to saying, well, Cody wasn't the heavyweight champion. And I guarantee you in his mind, that's like, I know, I mean, I could be the heavyweight champion, but I want the other guys to get the attention.
Yeah. I'll be every other champion.
You're Omega's on for 5 minutes and you're on for a half an hour, but no, you're giving the other guys the opportunity. Man, go fuck yourself.
No.
Getting all fired up about Cody Rhodes. It was bound to happen.
They need to, has MJF, how's he been doing?
He's just muddled in a feud with Jericho.
So just not holding any titles, not doing anything real.
He started his own group to combat against Jericho's group. That was that 5-on-5 stadium match. But even on the other side of that, still just kind of stuck in the mud with Jericho. That's what, MJF was a guy. I mean, he was making headway on the independents, as was Darby Allin. But those are two guys where you say, okay, you took an independent star, gave him a platform, utilized them well, because Darby's been good. I can't stand Sting, but it's been kind of a fun role for those two together.
Yeah,
I really, really do think so.
From what I saw, I enjoyed it.
Yeah. So you got those two. I'm like, I'll give you those two. I'm not a fan of Orange Cassidy at all, but he's gotten over with at least that crowd. I'll give credit where it's due.
Feelings about Orange Cassidy. Orange Cassidy, I find very entertaining. I laugh every time he's out there. Do I think he's a good wrestler? I don't know.
Well, funny, there's an old saying.
He does cool things, but he's not really doing conventional wrestling.
The old saying is funny doesn't equal money. That's the thing. So does he entertain you? Absolutely. But I mean, he was just in the heavyweight title match against Omega with Pac, and it was a good match. I thought it was a pretty good match, but it wasn't, oh my God, I can't wait to see Orange Cassidy get the title from Kenny Omega. It was more, I guess we'll see what happens.
To me, the best way I could describe it is, I like what I see, but I feel like there's something missing.
Yeah.
To just push him over the top and be like, yeah, this dude, I like this dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the best way I could describe it.
And again, you're talking about a character, and we'll go back to what we just said about Goldust, The Fiend, everything like that. How long are the legs for a character like that? Mm-hmm. You have a gimmick. Gimmick sounds weird. You have a shtick, but you have something that absolutely brings attention to you, and I want to see more.
How long is he going to kick people in the leg before they just deck him?
Right, exactly. And the longer that he does keep kicking people in the leg while they go along with it, the more it wears on you. The more
love the memes though. Gotta say, we're kicking Connor, or kicking LeBron or something.
And they go down.
That. Can't get enough of those.
Yeah. Okay, I'll give you that. If anything out of Orange Cassidy, we get that. That's not so bad. I'll give you that one.
But I interrupted that with that.
But so all in all, now we got crowds back. Are you excited? You feeling? Is your
no.
Wrestling juice is flowing a little more than.
If there's anything recently for me to be excited about wrestling, it's the fact that they're on the road again.
Yep.
Even the wrestlers are going to be more amped.
Oh, they have to be.
There's only potential for greatness.
Sure. Which, I will say this too. I think being off of the road was probably a nice break for wrestlers, because they're always on the road.
Shape,
you get to heal injuries. Healthy. You get to stay healthy. You get to be at home. Almost all of them are located in Florida at this point anyway, so they get to be home every night.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. I mean, that's a really good thing for them to get their batteries recharged, and I think they'll probably take that on the road now and be fired up, and it'll show.
Yeah.
The other MVP that you can't not talk about out of the Thunderdome era and still going now is Roman Reigns.
Oh, dude, if he's not nailing it right now,
it's phenomenal.
Nobody is.
He's phenomenal in this role.
He's done it.
And
he kind of won me over a little bit with the leukemia thing.
Mm-hmm.
Once that I was like, okay, he's human. I
Yeah.
have a reason to give a shit about him.
Yeah.
But not that I didn't deny he was human before, but you guys see what I mean. I hope. But this dude, him going heel and him going full into it and doing his thing, dude, he is nailing it.
And that's on him to, like you said, going all into it and investing fully into it, because they essentially just go out there and still be you, what we've presented you as, but the people still don't like you. Well, let's feed into that. We're not going to ignore it anymore.
Yeah.
And nobody liked it when you were out there beating everybody every pay-per-view. Well, we're still going to fucking do that and let them not like
but
you.
Now,
and you tell them how good you are and that they can't do anything about it.
But now
and
it
it's
makes
great.
sense. You know what I mean? Now we have a reason to buy it.
And we can't wait to see who's going to knock him off at this point. It's been about a year on top, and he hasn't lost a match.
Which, not to get too much into something that recently happened, but did you watch SmackDown on Friday?
I did not.
It's looking like, I don't know, maybe it'll change, but John Cena came out on like the week prior or whatever and said some shit. Mm-hmm. And then this Friday, Roman came out and responded basically saying, like, no, you can't. And then Finn Balor comes out.
Oh, okay.
So they might be pushing him and Finn Balor, or maybe he's just going to squash Finn Balor.
I'm on the way to Cena, which doesn't make sense.
No,
you don't need to squash.
Bring Finn Balor back just to get squashed by Roman Reigns.
You don't need to feed anybody to Reigns for Cena. Everybody knows who Reigns is. Everybody knows who Cena is. That match is fine. Nobody needs to get trampled over to remind you, oh, Roman Reigns can beat John Cena. No, Roman Reigns is made. He's fine. Bobby Lashley right now is made. He's fine. Yeah. He's doing that. I mean, he's the best run of his career by far.
Yeah. I love to hate him. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I'm not a fan of Bobby Lashley.
So we'll give that credit where it's due. And AEW is doing it with Omega. They're finally just positioning him as like, remember, it was maybe 3-4 years ago, but he was the best wrestler in the world. Everybody's talking about it. It's like, so here, there he is, the best wrestler in the world. He's going around to all the companies, taking all their belts, and who's going to beat him. So I think on top, everywhere you go between Lashley, Omega, and Reigns, you got the question of who's going to knock them off, and it's a good thing. You can definitely make a new star that way. You can build to it, because I don't think it's going to be Goldberg, and I don't think it's going to be John Cena. Yeah. So who's going to be the guy? Is it Finn Balor really going to run behind him? Big E won the Money in the Bank, and a lot of people feel he's had star potential the entire time. I do too. Guy's got a boatload of charisma, and
when it comes down, I mean, I guess it would depend on who Big E chooses. I can't remember if he has kind of indicated or said who he chose.
Yeah, he's on SmackDown, but you can still choose either way.
Whoever.
Yeah.
And I think Big E would be a good candidate.
I think so too.
To take down either one of them.
They've built, especially Roman, up so well that whoever does beat him should be a made man. I mean, it should make you.
And Big E definitely deserves it. He can perform. But like, I feel like the New Day gimmick is going to be hard to be the face of the company, maybe.
Possibly in that role, yeah. And I mean, it could always appeal to kids, but I think even as a teenager, you would think the New Day would be kind of cheesy.
Yeah, I mean,
as adults, we notice it as cheesy, but you can at least appreciate the effort they're putting into it. Like Woods is always constantly terribly entertaining, with everything he does. So us as adults can see what it is and go, this is the gimmick, and at least try to enjoy it. But yeah, for your young adults and teens, it'd be kind of tough because that wouldn't be cool. I mean,
yeah. But
John Cena wasn't cool to them the entire time for his run either. And
that's true.
And say what you will about him, if you're not a fan, you're not a fan. But without him, not only just the numbers in general, but like it feels like it's taken a big dip since Cena's been around, because he was either as kids that loved him, wanted to see him win, or most of the vocal audience that wanted to see him get knocked off. Big Match John was a thing, though.
Yeah.
He had big match. When he had feud with AJ Styles, you're like, fuck, I want to see that.
Yeah, people watch
it. If you were Kevin Steen, Kevin Owens, you're like, I want to see that.
Like, when out of all the people that they'll bring back, he's one of the top ones. You're like, yeah, I'll watch that.
Yep. No, I'm captivated. I'm ready. I'm ready for SummerSlam. I'm excited. That's got my full attention.
For sure.
Man, how long we been going? We've been rocking and rolling here.
Looks like if we include that little bit of bullshit in the beginning, an hour and 8.5 minutes.
All right, well, we're doing pretty good. I figured for our first one back, and we you know,
we covered a lot of ground.
We covered a lot of ground with this whole year and what we felt, and you know, because I know I talked to you. I wanted to talk about the summer of '96, and I think that would take us to do a little bit of research. But between the Austin 316 promo and the WWF and the NWO form WCW, I really feel like that was being 25 years ago too. That really started shaping wrestling for what it would become,
especially for our like generation.
So I really think the summer of '96 is so critical. So I think next time we get together, we'll do a little research and really dive into that. And you know, for any of the viewers or listeners, now will hear us say that we want to get into that, go check out the network and kind of catch up with it. Catch the Austin 316 promo. Yeah, watch just some Raws or some Nitros in that era. Like, that's what I've been doing. Actually, I've been watching like Nitros post Bash at the Beach when Hogan turned heel, just to kind of feel like some of it was still like old school WCW, and then like, boy, it was raw and gritty, like with the NWO and coming through the crowd and the hostile takeover and all of that. Like, you felt it, man. Like, and it was a really cool transition. So I'll get a little bit of time for us and anybody who would like to join in to maybe catch yourself up on that, because I think that's what we're going to talk about next.
Actually, like, I'm not getting paid to say this or anything, but I could recommend like a good channel, too, because if you don't want to like really have to like go through and watch everything, if you want something real good thing to catch up on, there's a channel I watch called Wrestling Bios, and he has a series where he does the Monday Night Wars essentially, but his own version of it.
Okay,
it's kind of a slower, more real version as opposed to WWE's.
WWE, they won, so they can write the history books however they want to. Yeah,
but his is more, and he takes you through it. So if you want to do that, you can. Not only that,
Wrestling Bios, Wrestling Bios,
2 words, and he also does like full career and storyline explanations and walkthroughs and shit. I love them, dude.
Okay,
I'll go to sleep just watching like playlist of them.
Easy. They'll get you a good Cliff's Notes version of what we'll be talking about,
like a cool little documentary version. And he has a cool like Irish accent and shit.
I'm me, so I know as much as I possibly can know, but I'll still probably watch that just so if we have a Cliff's Notes version and that's something that anybody else can watch too, so we can kind of focus on that and be like, okay, yeah, this is what happened and how did it affect things, and what did we feel about it? I think that'll be a fun episode.
Well, it's cool. He does it in the sense of like he talks more. He walks you through the storyline. Like you get to relive the story, and that's so cool about it.
Oh yeah, that gets you in the feels. Though, it really does.
Yeah, and like you could tell he really gives a shit. You know.
Yeah. Well, we'll start to take it home here, and I will start by saying that I mentioned too, like my wrestling juices are flowing again because we're able to wrestle again. There's a really good organization called Power Slam Pro Wrestling. They're just kind of getting the boat rolling with. I think they had their first show in April or March. They were doing really limited with the pandemic, but now they have a pretty cool little building out in Beach City, Ohio, so somewhat middle of nowhere. But this will air before Saturday, right? We'll have it available.
Yes.
Yeah. So this Saturday the 31st, I'll be there wrestling. It's a show called Mead and Bleed. There's actually a meadery right on the same like a premises more or less that brews and makes their own mead, and they're gonna have live bands.
I like the name.
Yeah, they're gonna have their live bands, 2 wrestling shows. I believe the first one is at 4:00, if I'm not mistaken. Wildfire Tommy Rich, former NWA champion, will be there.
Okay.
Yeah, have a couple beers with old Wildfire while I'm done. But I'm looking forward to that. The other thing we obviously need to talk about, which I probably should have done it at the beginning because it's the biggest thing going on in my life right now, but buried the lead in my world.
Absolutely.
Well, last summer, and actually, let's see, as I'm looking here, when did we do the MCW 10 year? That was like episode 18, 19. So some of the last...
Right here?
Yeah.
Oh, no. The 10 year?
Yeah, when we...
10th anniversary.
10th anniversary show. It was like...
1 year ago, it says there, October 1st, 2019.
There was our 19... Okay, it was episode 19 of ours where we were... covering the MCW 10 year, and we talked a lot of MCW, and that's all how I came up was all MCW. That was my company, man. Loved it. That's what made me me. And my trainer and the promoter of the show is Kevin Ballou, Shasta, and he passed away last summer, last July actually. And right away, what nobody else knows except for us, really, because I was spending a lot of time with Shasta, is we were already planning an MCW reunion show. We were talking about it, like we were talking about before COVID hit, And then as COVID hit, obviously it's like, well, we can't run a show, but this is kind of some of the stuff would be fun to do when we run a show.
Yeah, you had plenty of time.
We had plenty of time to think and plan. And he passed last July, not COVID related, but he passed away. And so immediately we were, you want to do something. I mean, he what he did for this area, especially for independent wrestling, was what nobody else did. He ran the big Canton Civic Center shows where we had, the Road Warriors, Dusty Rhodes, Jerry Lawler. That was all on one show. Very young AJ Styles, Sabu. That was all just one show. And then later on, like Jeff Jarrett was there, Mick Foley was in, Bret Hart was in. We had big shows at the biggest building in town with thousands of people. It was as big for independent wrestling this area has ever seen.
Yeah.
There's no question, and that's not a knock on anybody else who's run shows, because I've certainly wrestled for them. People put on good shows, but it was of that caliber, and it got the ball rolling for a lot of other people to run shows in the future too. So he was very influential. So right away, we're like, well, he passed away. What can we do? What can we do? Like, we obviously thought like a memorial show is necessary, but it's impossible at that time. I mean, we even tried to look around to rent like a park with a pavilion to like, hey, maybe we'll have some videos or stuff playing.
Yeah.
Not a full funeral service, but like just a celebration of life sort of thing. And get all the old guys together, and like the parks departments would tell us like, oh, yeah, no more than 20 people. And we're like, even outdoors, they're like, no more than 20 people. Like that's the restrictions were what they were.
It makes it not even worth it.
No, and that's what we landed on. We said we're not, if we can't do it right, we're not going to do it right now. But as we come into this year and the restrictions are starting to lift and everything, you're starting to get on the other side. Wes GQ Status got a hold of me and said, I think it's time to run a show. And I said, absolutely. And so we've been collaborating on it. But me being here in town where we're going to run the show, I've taken the bull by the horns, man. I booked the building on September 25th at the Stark County Fairgrounds, Saturday night. We'll have that reunion show and a memorial show for Shasta. It's called MCW Stranglehold. And I have, I've taken the bull by the horns and ran with this thing. It's been, besides going to work, paying bills, and taking care of the family, it's my number one priority. Like it really is. I've gotten hold of so many of the old talents, a lot of newer talents too. Like anybody who wrestled for MCW in the past that's still around and can wrestle or wants to do, they're going to be a part of this show. And we've done a lot of good creative juice, a lot of things flowing. We only got 2 matches announced so far, so that's all I'm going to give you right now. But myself versus Alex Matthews, and that's a cool story because he was in the last training class of Shasta, the last group of kids he trained back in, let's say it was 2011 or so. And I would go up there quite a bit and help train as well. And he hit the ground running and is starting to form a very good career for himself. He's a very, very talented kid. So I'll be taking on Alex Matthews in a little bit of a generation versus generation clash. And another generation versus generation class that we just announced today, Ethan Wright, another guy. He actually trained with Harley Race. Oh, wow. One of his last students as well. So he trained with Harley Race, but he's from the Alliance area. He came back home, wrestled for MCW. He actually beat Goldust in the last show that MCW ran. Oh, wow. In the main event. So he was on the big things then. He's still on the big things. He's traveling all across the area on every independent show he can get on. Dude looks like a star. Great wrestler. No,
we actually have a full match of him and Madman Fulton on Ohio Wrestlecast.
There we go. There you go.
So check that out.
Check that out. That was a really good match too. Yeah. And he's going to wrestle Cody Hawk. And if the name's not familiar to you guys here, him and Nigel McGuinness were touring buddies. They traveled the country together. They were on Ring of Honor shows together, and they were on Kevin's shows back in actual 2000, so like 2000, 2001, as young kids getting started. And Cody Hawk has situated himself in Cincinnati, where he runs his own wrestling academy, and he's actually trained John Moxley, he trained Sami Callihan, he trained Eli Drake, who's known as LA Knight now, and those are just the big names. He's trained a lot of really, really good independent wrestlers over the years. So a dude who really knows what he's doing. Ethan Wright obviously knows what he's doing. Yeah. I think that's going to be a hell of a match. I'm personally stoked to watch that one. So
Yeah.
we got two announced already. More to come. Stick with us here and follow the page on Facebook if you could. MCW Stranglehold. You'll get all of your info.
If we haven't already, which I think I did, I'll post it on the Ohio Wrestlecast Facebook page. So go there, like it too if you haven't already, and you can get all the info there if you want to go.
So we've been working really hard though to not only have great wrestling matches, but then also everything we can do to appropriately honor Shasta. We've got I already have a video in from Nigel McGuinness. So anybody who can't be there that's worked with us throughout the years, like we just say, send us 30 seconds to a minute video, and Nigel had a video that was a couple minutes long that was beautiful. I can't wait for people to see it.
Awesome.
And you'll get to see what he meant. I mean, I can sit here and tell you, but I'm just one person, and to a lot of people, like I'm not much of anything, but Nigel McGuinness is a big star, Ring of Honor world champion, and he can tell you that he feels very similar that I did about Kevin and what he meant, and the person that he was and how entertaining he was. And so you'll get to see that from not only Nigel, but a lot of other people at the show will have those videos.
Yeah.
So
Shasta will be there in spirit without a doubt.
Hell yeah, he will. And I'll tell you what, we got to do a show to do him proud, because if not, he'll let us know. If the show sucks, there's probably going to be a thunderstorm or something on all of you. He will let us know. He was never afraid to let us know when anything else we did sucked, but he also would be very proud when we deliver, and that's the plan. That's the plan, to deliver on the 25th.
All right. Well, I guess unless you got something else,
I think that's it, Daddy-O.
I guess with that said, that has been our triumphant return with episode 23 of Ohio Wrestle.
Felt pretty good. Shake that rust off.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, let's see how I can do with an outro. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Pretty sure we still got T-shirts and shit available somewhere. I don't know. I'll get back to you on that, or post something in the description.
If you guys ask for him, Mark will find it for you.
Yeah,
there you go.
Slide into my DMs.
Slide into his DMs.
But Dustin Poirier. But
I wouldn't want to see Dustin Poirier do to you what he did to Conor McGregor.
Absolutely not.
Dustin Poirier, Mrs. Poirier, do not slide into Mark's DMs.
No, unless you guys are into that sort of thing.
Unless you want a T-shirt.
Yeah, absolutely, exactly. My point. Going back to my point. But yeah, that's all I remember. I'm sure I'll get back into the swing of things the next one, especially when I go through and edit this and just see how rusty I am. But with that said,
bye, Internet.
God, I missed that.
Down, 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 down.
No, but I didn't hit stop recording yet, so I'm probably